Whoops. What's that? I have one online person. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I have Peter online, so that's good. 2 people here, so that's good. Hopefully more will show up sooner rather than later. Let me see here. I just gotta fix one thing. Okay. There we go. There's Abby. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to, what day is today? Welcome to Thursday. How we doing? Okay? David? You're paralyzed? From what? You're overwhelmed? Oh, the social justice. You had a social justice quiz? Yeah. Tell me. Huh? What? Class, I was in class. It's so hard.
Now you're sitting in the corner.
No, okay. Are you sure you weren't just like, not paying attention? How was the quiz? Think it was okay? I have to know, are mine harder or easier?
Easier.
Mine are easier? Ugh. Really?
Yeah.
Ugh. I don't want to hear that.
No, because now like we have quizzes every week.
Oh, okay. You have less with me.
Yeah.
But still, are mine harder or easier? Tell me the truth.
I'm not sure. The thing is that yours were like a bunch of classes summarized in one quiz.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's like every week we have a quiz for what we saw in 3 days. It's compromised.
Okay? Is that better or worse? Do you think, like for you?
I think it's better.
Yeah. Because you have less time to forget things. Yeah. Abby, I feel like you like fewer quizzes. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also like more quizzes, like it's easier to get your grades up.
Oh, okay. Because you got more opportunities.
Yeah.
To do it. I see.
Both sides.
Yeah, it's always a balance, and I always get stuck because I can always think about things different ways, right? So I think, okay, well, more quizzes are great because you can get your grades up, but I also, I want you to sort of perform on them, and I don't want you to just like pass by just scoring enough points, right? I want to actually see what you can do, and so. Plus, I've got to mark all that stuff too, so I don't want to give you hundreds of things because then I'm always marking, right? And I also don't want to mark everything you do because you have to have space to make a mistake, right? So sometimes when we go over questions in the book, like I want you to do your best and I want you to make a mistake now so we can correct it when it's not for points. So when it is for points, you're ready, right? So I don't want to mark everything you do, but I need to mark enough, but not so much that you're overwhelmed and not so much that I'm overwhelmed. And I don't want you to just score enough points to pass, but so sometimes I get kind of tied up in like how much is enough. You know what I mean? But it's difficult. I like Jamie's approach in that it's very consistent, right? You always know, you always know when a quiz is coming, right? So that's good.
And sir, how can I see my history?
How can you see them? Well, most of them are in student portal.
But that's of midterm.
Yes.
Not right.
Where is your current average? Like right now, or just mark since then?
Current right now. What is it?
I could. I probably have to enter a few more, but I could recalculate after that and see where we are.
Yeah, if you could.
Yeah, I can do that. Where do you want to be? Where do you feel you need to sit?
Anywhere above 70.
Anywhere above 70?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe into B territory?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I'll try to get that put into in there later today. While we're talking about it, should we talk about our last quiz? Because I don't want to do it. The last week is going to be, tying up loose ends and also doing our presentations, right? So I don't want to do it. I don't want to do a quiz in the last week. We'll be busy. I don't want to do it this week because there's not enough time. So could we try to do it next week? What would be a good day, do you think? What's a good day for the quiz? I'm pretty flexible. I don't mind what day it is, but what do you? Any day? No preference? David, do you have a preference? You want to do it on Monday? Oof. Are you sure? Anna, what do you think? Any day? How about we do it Tuesday? Monday seems a little...
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Everybody okay with Wednesday? Okay.
No, Tuesday.
No Tuesday? Wednesday doesn't work?
No.
Okay. You have something else going on?
No, I just don't like Wednesday.
You just don't like Wednesday?
Yeah.
As a day?
Yeah.
You just don't like Wednesday as a day?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people don't like Monday. What's wrong with Wednesday?
It's just the middle of the week.
It's just like a dead spot.
Yeah.
You don't have enough. You're losing your momentum from Monday, but it's not close enough to Friday yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I kind of thought Thursday was like that.
No, Thursday is good.
Thursday's good because it's almost.
Because you just have one more day.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Makes sense.
But Wednesdays. Okay. So can we do Tuesday? Is that a good compromise? No? Why not Tuesday?
It's next to Monday.
I know it's next to Monday. I thought you wanted it on Monday.
Huh?
I thought you wanted it on Monday.
I changed my mind.
You changed your mind.
Yeah.
Anything is fine. So
Anything is fine? Anna, you're not? Okay. Let's do it a week today. Let's do it Thursday. Okay? Let's do it Thursday. Monday feels a little soon to me anyway. I don't like to spring things on you with short notice. So let's try it. Let's do it for Thursday. I'll put it in Microsoft Teams with the class range, and we'll do it. Okay. All right. So what do I want to do? We spent some time working on our presentations yesterday. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask right now about your process or how it's going?
Sir, so the citations are due tomorrow.
Yes, I would like them to be finished tomorrow.
Okay, and so will you give us advice back?
Yes. Yes, I will. Can I talk a little bit about what the citations look like?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me do that. So, when you're nope, is that the right one? Maybe it isn't. No. Okay, hang on. Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Safari. Right. So again, we said when you're when you're citing people's work, at the end you want to have what they call a works cited. Okay. So this is what you do at the end, and you list all of the sources that you used in your presentation or your art or your essay or your paper, whatever you do, okay? And it gets a little complicated sometimes. Because, let me just get to the right window here. There we go. It gets a little complicated because it's all in the formatting, okay? And so what you can do here is I just need to move a couple things. What you can see here is that if you go to, there's two websites that I would recommend you look at. One is this Owl Purdue website, which is listed on the assignment for the sources. The other one you can go to is Columbia College Library, and you can see on the right they have a citation guide here, and if we click MLA, it will help us out a little bit, okay? And so I'm just going to go back here though. So it's all about formatting things, and you format things just slightly differently depending on what kind of source you have. Okay, is it a book? Is it a journal article? Is it a magazine? Is it a YouTube video? Is it a newspaper article? Did I say that already? I might have. Depending on what it is, you format it slightly differently. But I'll show you here. Okay. So if you look on the far left, you'll see this MLA. Okay, you can't see my formatting and style guide, and then it'll say how you do all of these things, right? So let's just look at books. I don't think anyone is going to use a book because books are just too big to deal with. But if you did, let's click on it. Here we go. And it'll show us the proper way to do it, okay? So here we go. So if we've got a book with one author, we list it this way, okay? So last name, first name, the title of the book is in italics, so it's kind of sideways, and then we have the publisher, right? Penguin, and then the date it was published, 1987, okay? So it's all about kind of the order of things and whether they are in italics or not, okay? And so some of them get a little more complicated, right? If you've got two authors, you do it kind of like this. It's mostly the same, okay? Now, most of you will probably do, let's say, electronic sources, okay? Because most of you are going to find your stuff on the internet, okay? So, oh, I can't do that. Here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. There's a lot of information. So here, if you're citing a website, it kind of depends whether you are citing a whole website or whether you actually have something that's written by someone, okay? So this is the website that we're actually on right now, right? So we've got the name of the website, the Purdue OWL family of sites, and then the page, and then the link. And then an important thing here is the accessed date, right? Because if I cite a book, right? If I'm citing a book is a book, right? It's printed, it's permanent, right? But electronic sources can be updated and changed all the time. So you always want to say, if you're citing something, you want to say, and I looked at it on April 23rd, 2008, right? That way, if I go back later and I see that it's different, I can see, oh, well, maybe I need to look at an archived version of the site because you saw a version of the website before it was changed, right? Now it's different. So always put your access date just so people know when you looked at the website, because websites change, right? We know that. So if we've got no author here, we might cite it like this, but hopefully we'll be looking at sources that have an author, right? So most of your citations at the end will probably look like this, right? So Fallujah Dino, right? That's the author's name. This is the title, right? The Guide to Literary and Critical Theory. It's in italics, so we know it's the title. And then where it comes from, right? When it was published, and then the website, the URL link with no HTTPs, just the website, and then an access date, right? So most of yours will probably look something like that, okay?
Wait, so why didn't you put the link?
Just because you don't really need it. And most of the things you'll be looking at are, are HTTP, not HTTPS, right? So it's just kind of to clear it out. The other thing is that, just follow the rules. It doesn't matter. They've chosen to, pardon me, they've chosen to do it this way, and you just need to kind of do what they do, right? And so if you look here, you can find examples and you can just kind of follow them, right? In terms of where the punctuation is, right? There's a period here. This is in italics. There's a period here. There's a comma. Look at how they write the date, right? 28 November 2003, comma, website, comma, or is that a period? I think that's a period. access May 10, right? So you just have to kind of follow the style of it, okay? And again, if you find that, you know, if you have a different kind of source, you know, you can look it up, right? Now, what it'll look like at the end is something like this. So I just clicked on the sample works cited page. And this is kind of what it'll look like, okay? So here you can see it says works cited at the top, okay? Notice that everything is listed alphabetically, right? So your sources, it's not in the order you use them, it's alphabetical. And so here's the last name Dean, the last name Ebert, Gowdy, Harris. Ah, but look here. This is a film, right? An Inconvenient Truth. That's a documentary film. But here, documentary films get listed by their title first. So it's still alphabetical, but instead, it's the I, inconvenient, right? So it goes E-G-H-I, Inconvenient Truth, right? Then it goes back to other last names, right? LaRue, Milken, etc. So it's a little tricky, but try to make sure that they are alphabetical, okay? And this is kind of what I'm looking for here, this thing on the right side. So a works cited, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And you'll just need to make sure you format them correctly, and you're good to go, okay? And again, you can use this website. I find this website's pretty good, I think. You can also use the Columbia College guide here. And it actually teaches you how to use actually, let me just see. I'm just going to look at this here. In all honesty, it might be better to use this website. this one's better than the college one, I think. But yeah, that's all you have to do. Okay. And again, it's a little bit picky. Like the details stuff is picky, and it's going to be an annoying pain in the butt for you. I'm telling you now, but it is something that you have to do in, you know, writing college or university papers. You have to cite things properly, and so this is part of that, okay? Now, the other thing I'll just point out is that most citation systems also have a way to cite things in the text, right? So if you've got something in your presentation, maybe it's a quote or maybe it's a piece of information from somewhere else, what you want to do is I can't do it on the screen. What you want to do is you want to cite it next to what you've talked about. And we saw something like that there. We saw something like that before when I was showing you those paraphrasing examples, right? So here's a nice, actually it's a bit of a paraphrase and a bit of a quote, right? So Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by, and then these are Wordsworth's words, a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, right? So we already know it's Wordsworth, so we just put the page number in. Here we can also, if we don't say it's Wordsworth, we put it in like this, right? So that we know that, oh, it comes from Wordsworth, and we know it comes from page 263. How do I know which Wordsworth book or article I'm looking at? Well, I go to the works cited at the end, right? That's what will direct me to, and that's what we're trying to do, right? Is that if someone looks at that and says, I don't believe that, right? They should be able to say, okay, Wordsworth 263. I'm going to go to the end, look at the works cited. Oh, this is the book or the article that it comes from. I should be able to find it. I should be able to open it to page 263 and read what it says and confirm it, right? That's what scientists are trying to do. They're trying to say that, yes, I use this idea or I use this data, and if you don't believe me, you can find it here, right? So this is basically, it's a thank you, right? Thank you, Wordsworth. But it's also a way that we can trace back exactly where that information came from, right? So in theory, romantic poetry is characterized by the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. I should be able to go back to this exact source and figure out if he actually said that, right? And again, I'm sure I would, right? If I did it, I would find it out. But this offers us the path back, right? And again, it's kind of what it is. You guys know what a hyperlink is, right? You know, when you, on a website where something is in blue or underlined and you click on it and it sends you somewhere else. What this is basically a hyperlink from before computers were invented, right? It takes you back to that original source so that you can look at it yourself, okay? So think about it that way. It's a hyperlink before hyperlinks were invented. Okay? So yeah, if you're using someone's ideas or data, just put a little bracket, right? With the source and a page number if it's got pages. If it's a video, no page number, obviously, okay? So this thing here is more for your presentation. The work cited is for the assignment that I'm asking you to do, the sources assignment, and it's also what you'll have, the last slide of your presentation will have your sources, okay? And they'll be listed just like, oh, I can't do that on the screen. They'll be listed just like that, okay? Again, it's not difficult. It's just like, you just got to figure out the detail, right? So again, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's something that academic writing does. If you go across the street, they will ask you to do it. If you go to UBC or SFU, they will ask you to do it. And so it's good to get a little experience with doing it right now, just so it's not so difficult later on, okay? Does that make some sort of sense? You'll have to kind of just do it to learn it. Like I can talk about it more, but you'll really need to actually try it with your own sources, and then you'll kind of get a feel for how it works, okay? So, as I say, the in-text citations are a quick little thank you, but they're also kind of a hyperlink, right? They hyperlink back to the work cited, and then from there, I should be able to find your original source. I should be able to go and look at it myself, okay? Not that I don't trust you, because I do, but that's how it works. Okay, good for now? Questions? Concerns? Problems? Queries? All quiet? Okay. Let's go back to China. So, in China, we said that the history of the 20th century basically starts with the abdication of the Manchu, the last Manchu emperor in 1911, right? Emperor steps down. There's some confusion for a little while about who's going to run China, but this kind of Kuomintang party emerges, right? And it's founded in part by Sun Yat-sen or Sun Yat-sen. I don't know if you've gone, but there's a little Chinese garden over here dedicated to Sun Yat-sen, believe it or not. This party is created. It's a nationalist party, right? So it's about the Chinese people. It is powerful enough to kind of start to govern, and it declares the Republic of China. So China kind of becomes a country. After Sun Yat-sen or Sun Yizhan dies, we have this general Jiang Jieshi or Chiang Kai-shek. Jiang Jieshi goes around and starts to get everybody under his control, right? All of these different areas of China that were kind of doing their own thing, he's trying to bring them under the control of Kuomintang. And he's pretty successful at doing that, right? In part, he does it by allying himself with wealthier landowners, right? Who the text suggests he makes a deal with them to push communists out of the party, because this original Kuomintang party is a mixture of a bunch of different people. But Jiang Jieshi is going to push out the communists. Sorry, I've got some extra detail here. He's going to push out the communists, including our friend Mao. Mao is going to go off to the countryside and start to build a following amongst the poor peasants, right? Before long, we see a kind of a civil war break out between the communists and Jiang Jishi's nationalists, right? That civil war is kind of complicated by the Japanese, who are moving into northeast China and trying to access all the resources up there. So Jiang Jishi is kind of trying to deal with the Japanese, but also trying to deal with the communists at the same time. Okay. When World War II breaks out, everything kind of goes on pause, right? The Chinese are just kind of trying to survive. Jiang Jishi kind of steps back and hopes that one of the big world powers will take care of Japan, which they do, right? The Americans take care of Japan. Jiang Jishi doesn't have to deal with them, and so when World War II is over, the Civil War is back on, right? They fight it out for a little while, and Jiang Jishi's nationalists are, they flee to Formosa, or what is now Taiwan, right? There's the idea that they will come back and overthrow Mao, but it really never happens, right? So at the end of the Civil War, Mao declares the People's Republic of China in 1949, which amazingly we saw in the video, right? We actually saw footage of him declaring the birth of People's Republic of China, which is that's kind of a cool historical moment, I think. And so now we have this new country that has been created, and again, Mao will try to institute communism, right? Just like Lenin tried to do, just like Stalin, well, Stalin succeeded, I think, in doing, they tried to sort of organize a communist or socialist system to run the country, right? And I think, where's my, oh, I'm going to jump ahead here. So to look at that a little bit, we watched this documentary. I had some questions for you. We said that Mao collectivized agriculture, right? Which again was something that Lenin attempted to do and Stalin kind of did, as Mao takes smaller farms and starts to put them together into larger ones. We also see Mao try a couple of major campaigns, right? So again, to increase the availability of food, Mao launches the Four Pests campaign, right? And so, and again, there's something interesting happening here, because Stalin has to force the Russians to do things, right? He's heavy-handed, he's brutal. If you get in the way, he will send you to a forced labor camp. There's just no way to resist Stalin. But because Mao has kind of built a following in the countryside for years and years, the people actually like Mao, right? They want to follow Mao. They want to do what Mao says. And so when he says, let's do this Four Pests campaign, let's eradicate rats and birds and all these things that are stealing our food, right? Stealing our grain, the people don't have to be forced. The people leap into action, right? They're like, we're going to do this. Mao says we should do it. Let's go, right? And so they enthusiastically get out there and eradicate all of these animals, right? We saw footage of them banging pots to scare the birds, and the birds flew until they were exhausted and dropped dead out of the sky, which is kind of unbelievable, but that's what happened. But what was the unexpected, or maybe expected, result of that? Yeah, right? All of those creatures that were, yes, eating some of the grain, they were also controlling other pests, right? And so without them, insect numbers increase, the insects destroy the crops, and there is even greater famine, right? There's less food than there was before. So a bit of a catastrophe, I would say, right? And then we move on to his great leap forward. And what was Mao trying to do with the great leap forward? What was the goal of that? Or how was he trying to leap forward? Oof, all quiet. Okay. Let me help you out a little bit. So, where is it? Okay. So this is Mao's great leap forward, okay? And so, again, he's kind of trying to do what Stalin did, right? To take China from the very kind of simple, poor agricultural country that it is and make it an industrial power, right? He increases everybody's quotas, right? He tells people to produce more. He gets people smelting iron in their backyard, kind of thing, all in an attempt to increase production, right? And a lot of what this has to do is kind of, and you'll hear this in other places, but it's the idea that we just need to try harder, right? There's this, we need to sort of get the masses working, and then it'll happen, right? We just need to work harder or believe more. But as you can see here, the Great Leap Forward is a bit of a disaster, right? It doesn't really result in anything happening at all. And in fact, it's actually winds up shrinking the economy, right? And so, he instituted these quota systems that nobody could match, right? So he said, this year we're going to have 200% more agricultural production, right? Nobody could do that. And so what did they do? Well, they lied, right? They said, everything is going great, we're meeting all the quotas, but they weren't, right? And so when the harvest came due in the fall, Communist Party thought they were going to get a lot of grain, and they actually got almost none, because everybody was just kind of pretending, right? They didn't want to say no to Mao. They didn't want to tell him the truth, and so people would kind of lie, right? There was also people working on industry, literally making iron in their backyard, right? But this probably won't come as a shock to you, but making iron is a complicated business, right? Especially if you're going to make good quality iron that you can actually make things and build things out of. You can't have people trying to make this stuff in the backyard. It doesn't work. They can't really get their fires and forges hot enough to really process the iron properly. And so lots of people do a lot of work making lots of iron, but the iron is all garbage, right? It's not suitable for production, because you can't just make this stuff in your backyard, right? You need a big industrial plant, right? And so he had this kind of great idea that everybody would just do all these things and just work harder. And again, they all did work harder, but it didn't pay off, right? Nothing really came of it. And in fact, many, many people eventually died of starvation because the food just wasn't there, right? The food that they thought was going to be produced wasn't. And so I thought I'd show you a couple of pictures here, a couple of primary sources, if you will. Here's some people sitting around. These are oil workers kind of a little bit later. Well, actually, no, during the Great Leap Forward in 1957, right? So they're sitting around in the evenings after work to discuss their production figures. So they produced far more than they ever did before, but again, it's falling short of the needs of the country, right? And so, yeah, here they are, just kind of sitting here. It's just a window into their world. Doesn't really say that much. Here's some people. This is kind of interesting. Here's some people seeing a television for the first time, believe it or not. So televisions are kind of invented a little bit previous to this. In the United States, in the mid-1950s, people start getting televisions in their homes, which is a big deal. Here, again, this is probably maybe 1960 or so. And this is kind of a big deal, right? People seeing this technology for the first time. Of course, they won't be able to have one in their home for quite some time, but this is a kind of an interesting image as well. These are prisoners in Beijing who are there for political reasons, right? So these are people who had anti-communist ideas, right, or said anti-communist things, people who were seen as against communism or against the state, and they're here kind of being re-educated, right? They're here to kind of learn the error of their ways so that they can be good communists like the rest of China, right? And so here you can see them doing work. Does it say what they're doing here? Are they making socks? Is that what's happening? I'm not entirely sure what they're making. But they're not just sitting around in prison, they're working, right? They're contributing to the state even though they're in prison. What's that? They gave them more homework? Yeah. Yes, they did. Okay, so we have a little more of this Chinese communist documentary to watch. The last thing we were experiencing is the Cultural Revolution. And did you remember what the Cultural Revolution was about? That was the last thing we saw on Tuesday. Last thing we saw on Tuesday.
It was about those kids from school that read in their art.
Yeah, a lot of it was older school children, university students, and students your age, right? What were those people doing?
Destroying everything from any religion that was not from what Mao said.
Yeah, right. So, and this is again the amazing thing about China, and what makes it different from the Soviet Union is the sort of power and prestige that Mao has, right? Mao just goes on the radio and says, "This is what we should do, people. Rise up." And the people do it, right? He doesn't have to force them at gunpoint. He doesn't have to threaten them with jail. Well, some people go to jail, but he doesn't have to do that. He just tells people, this is what we should do, and the people respond, right? So he has the kind of following that Stalin and Lenin really never had, right? Stalin and Lenin had to hammer in communism from the top, right? But Mao, even though some people had to be hammered, a lot of people willingly did what he wanted, right? And so, again, he felt that the Communist Party wasn't looking on him very favorably, right? He was kind of losing his power within the party, especially after all of these failures, right? The Four Pests and the Great Leap Forward. Those were complete disasters. Millions of people died. And so people are looking at Mao and saying, this guy doesn't have, his ideas aren't very good, right? He doesn't know what he's doing. And so he launches this as an attempt to destroy his enemies, but also to engage in kind of another revolution, right? Because an important part of the communist ideology is revolution, right? It is the overthrow of the bourgeoisie. And so he's kind of trying to do this again. He's almost trying to, even though they're a communist country, he's almost trying to do another communist revolution, right? And so he turns loose these young people on the nation, and they seek and destroy anything that is kind of non-communist, right? And so we see lots of religious buildings and icons destroyed, right? We didn't talk about this when we talked about Karl Marx, but one of the things that Karl Marx said was that religion is the opiate of the masses. Do you know what an opiate is? What's an opiate?
Yeah, is it like to do with drugs?
Yeah.
Or is it like a drug that like to
It helps you what?
like dose
Dulls you?
dose like deep kind of
Yeah. Yeah. So opium is a drug that comes from the East, actually. It's made from poppies. But yeah, when you take it, it makes you very kind of like sleepy and relaxed, right? And so sometimes even in hospitals they'll use opiates to treat people because they're good at that. But if you become addicted to them, you know, it makes you very kind of sleepy. And people who take or smoke opium, you know, they lie down and they're just kind of mostly asleep because that's the effect it has on you. But Marx said that religion is the opiate of the masses, right? And so he saw, when he was in kind of Britain and France during the Industrial Revolution, he saw people being exploited, right? We talked about that. And he said that, but what religion was telling them, especially Christian religion was saying, don't worry, because even if you're poor or if you're mistreated in this life, you will be rewarded in the kingdom of heaven, right? That's the kind of thing you hear from Christianity and from Catholicism, right? And Marx looked at that and said, well, then the religious leaders are just helping the bourgeoisie. They're just helping the factory owners, because the factory owners are taking advantage of the workers, and the religious leaders are saying, oh, but don't worry, it's okay, you'll be rewarded in the next life, right? The religious leaders aren't saying, hey, you're being exploited, you need to stand up for yourself. They're an opiate, right? They're saying, just calm down, just go to sleep, because in heaven you will be rewarded. And Marx saw that and he said, no, that's crap, right? Why are the religious leaders helping the bourgeoisie? Why are they helping the factory leaders, right? So communism doesn't really have a lot of room or respect for religion, right? Because communism sees the bourgeoisie as the enemy, and they see religion as helping the bourgeoisie along. And so, in part, during the Cultural Revolution, Mao's revolutionaries go and destroy anything that is bourgeoisie, anything that is old, anything that is religious, anything that is non-communist, right? And so, again, lots of religious temples and icons are destroyed. They go to Confucius's grave and they destroy his monument. They burn books, right? Old books containing sort of Chinese literature and Chinese history. Those are burned, right? Artwork is destroyed. Anything that is old, right? Anything that is not communist is destroyed, right? And it's a country at war with itself, right? And people are attacking their teachers, which I cannot go along with. They're attacking their teachers, university professors. Some people are attacking their parents, right? Because their parents represent old thinking. Again, older literature, poetry, art, history, religion, all of that stuff, anything that was pre-communist is being destroyed, right? And people are destroyed in the process, right? People people like me lose their jobs, right? And are paraded in front of the town and meant to wear a sign with their crimes, and then they're beaten, you know? So it's pretty awful, right? And again, Mao is just able to sort of command this, and people do it, right? And so after, kind of the difficulties of collectivization, the failures in industrialization, this great leap forward that killed millions, and now this cultural revolution that also resulted in the death of millions as well, and a major setback for the country, right? Instead of building and progressing, they're basically tearing the country apart from underneath them, right? And so I should probably let you come to this conclusion yourself, but I'll say it. Mao is incredibly destructive to China, right? He brings communism to China, but in the process of trying to implement it, it is an utter disaster, right? It's one disaster after another. Okay, let's take a little break, and then when we come back, we'll watch the rest of that documentary, okay? And we'll see where this takes us. Okay? All right. Let's take a break. thing. Okay. Sorry, we're back. We were talking about China and Huawei and privacy, internet privacy, and all kinds of things. Let's finish watching this documentary on Chinese Communist Party. I'm just going to put the link into the live chat here. It's from yesterday, but just in case you don't have it handy, I'll put it in for you. There it is. And so we started watching from we watched the first 20 minutes yesterday. So let's watch from 20 minutes to the end. Okay? That's what we'll do, okay? So yeah. I'm going to turn you loose to do that, and then we'll see when we finish, okay? So online people, watch the rest of the documentary, and then we'll come back and I'll see you then, okay? So maybe that's a good place to stop. As you can see, once Mao is kind of dead and gone, unfortunately, well, or fortunately, I don't know. Once Mao is dead and gone, we see that Deng Xiaoping is going to step into the leadership role in the Communist Party, and he's going to basically take the country in a radical new direction, right? It's not like Lenin's new economic policy where it's like, oh, we'll just do a little capitalism. He's going to turn it into a fully capitalistic country, right? A country that's based on profit and private ownership in a lot of cases. But as we see here, the Chinese Communist Party is still going to maintain the monopoly on power, right? You can have all the economic freedom that you want, but political control stays with the Communist Party, right? And here in 1989, we see that people are going to get the feeling that they want democracy, right? They want, they want a say in how their country is run, and they start to demonstrate in the streets, and the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese government is going to get a little nervous, right? And then they're going to do something, but we'll deal with that tomorrow, okay? So, questions, concerns, queries? Okay, that's all for today. Come back tomorrow. We will finish dealing with China, and then we're going to switch back to the Soviet Union and finish the Cold War story, okay? All right.